Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to No Judgement Here with Tish Ross, the podcast. Tonight's episode is a powerful one because I'm sitting down with Jermaine, a man who spent 18 years incarcerated for something that he says he did not commit. This is Jermaine's first ever time to share his story publicly, so I thank him so much for his courage to speak his truth. We're not only going to talk about what led to his incarceration, but we're also going to talk about the after effects of prison and how life on the outside can be extremely difficult even after being released, whether that is looking for a job, whether it is mentally, emotionally, and we know that all of that affects us physically. So I'm asking you to listen with an open heart. And if something in this conversation moves you to ask a question or to leave a comment of support, please do so. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys being here. So I am going to bring my guest in. Hello, Jermaine. Welcome in.
Hello, how are you?
So good. So happy to be here with you. And
It's a pleasure.
I
It's a pleasure.
appreciate you so much coming on to share your truth, to share what happened.
Absolutely.
And I'm coming to find that it's happening to a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
Boy, I'm honored to have been able to join the Innocence Project. And
the platform that you have is something that people attract to because, like you say, it is something that's occurring often. We need more platforms like this for people to speak, people to share their stories, just for people to understand where, our experiences that we actually went through. And it's something
absolutely.
that's important that we develop these platforms to where people like I and other people that's this experience has happened to, for them to be able to share their stories as well. So I really
Yes.
appreciate you giving me the time and the opportunity to speak my piece.
My pleasure. It is an honor. So
Yes.
I want to start first because I know that we have a bit to chat about. I
Mhm.
want to start first, Jermaine, with you sharing, I guess, a little bit before we get into the case, just sharing a little bit about your childhood, how you grew up, and who you are and were before all this happened as a person. Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Well, I grew up in Hamilton, Ohio, a small city right outside of Cincinnati, maybe about 30 minutes away. I grew up with my mother, my father, my sister, my brother. Me and my brother are like 10 months apart. So we grew up close together,
Mm,
we were a close family, I really didn't get in any trouble, nothing serious. I had the family structure that, most families have.
mm,
My grandmother, my grandmother and grandfather, we lived with them. We were there on most of the days, when we wasn't at home. Me and my brother were there. So our family was close knitted. We were, a family, close
yeah.
family. So
And so
um,
when you were in school, as you're going to school and whatnot, were you involved in sports, or what kind of kiddo were you?
I,
Were you active in that?
absolutely. Yes, sports. I grew up. Me and my brother both. We grew up playing football. That was our favorite sport, more than anything.
Hmm.
We played football, basketball. We tumbled on a tumbling team. We played little league baseball. So that was fun for us. We had cousins that came to the house and we played with them. So it was very competitive
Mm,
for all of us, which made it exciting, growing up in the community.
of
So that's
course.
what we did every
And
day.
were you a good student, make decent grades?
Yes, I would say all the way up until about the maybe I say seventh grade.
Mhm.
And seventh grade, I kind of started to kind of like branch away. a little bit, like lose focus, so to speak, where drifting away from things that I was supposed to be doing. And my dad, he was very strict. My mother, she was a little, more lenient. But we still had that they were still, that structure that we had to abide by. And when we broke the rules, we had to pay the price. And my dad was someone that really laid the grounds for that.
Gotcha. So he was he
was the enforcer.
Was the disciplinarian. Yes.
Yes, he was.
Gotcha. And so in terms of being disciplined, and I asked this question just because to sort of create the kind of person that you were, the kind of kiddo that you were before all of this happened, because this happened back in 1990 and you were very young when all of this started. But in terms of creating who you were and how you were raised, your dad being a disciplinarian, were you grounded, spanked? Were you afraid, or did you respect your dad?
I respected my dad, but me and my dad clashed. We had disagreements, and I think his way of disciplining me, became an issue. And so I think when I was around about 13 or 14, it created some, kind of some tension between the both of us. And so, that kind of caused me to kind of like be in the streets, kind of like distance, not want to be home, under his, system or whatever it was. But it caused me to stray and kind of like be out in the streets more so with friends that weren't good friends. So
gotcha. And that's kind of the typical age anyway, right? When we're in middle school,
as teenage, teenage years,
to sort of go and see what we can get into or explore as a child. I really feel like it's exploring your youth. There are so many things, so many different paths we can take, and myself included. I took a couple of wrong turns when I was in middle school and recorrected and decided, gosh, that's not the way to go. So I think that's so normal for all of us as young kiddos to go and explore.
I think I was drifting. Those teenage years for me where I was kind of like drifting towards the streets because, like I say, I didn't want to be there with him. And that was a problem. That created problems for the both of us.
Gotcha. So before or as you're in school, you're moving through middle school and you are kind of drifting, kind of seeing what's going on out in the streets. And tell us, when you think back about the moment that changed your life, what was going on in the neighborhood, kind of set the narrative in terms of what was going on in the neighborhood. Because I know that when you and I chatted, there was some racial things going on. The Klan was around, and unfortunately, whites against blacks. And so kind of set the tone and then let us know what happened.
So what initiated everything was there was a 15-year-old youth, Roy Printup, that was gunned down coming home from school by the son of a Klansman. And, that created some tension amongst whites and blacks in the community where, there was some problems that it created. And so things kind of escalated from that point, so to speak. So there was a lot of isolated incidents occurring after that happened, which made it kind of difficult for the whole community.
And so when you say isolated incidents, what do you mean by that?
there were like assaults, um, you know, people, black people getting assaulted. There was another shooting that occurred right after that, 2 days later. Um, Another black guy was shot in front of a bar. Two guys were walking down the street with the sawed off and shot a guy in front of a bar. And so that added to the tension in the community. And then that same night, that was earlier in the day when that happened. And so later on that night, there was when Michael Rowley was shot. He was shot at 1:40 later on that night, but it was the same day. So it happened 2 days later after Roy Printup was shot. There was two other shootings that occurred.
And this was on May 11th or May 12th, 1990?
Roy was shot on May 9th, 1990. And then those two other shootings occurred on May the 11th. And then the other one, by it being, after midnight, was at May 12th.
Yes. So I saw that was at 1:40 a.m. on May 12th.
Right.
So, okay. So this is the second person that is shot, or the third person rather, that is shot within that time frame. In terms of the first one being the one that was shot, the Klansman, and then there was the one that was shot on. Yes, the two
guys with the shotgun. They shot a black guy standing out in front of a bar, and then that later on that night there was another shooting, which is my case that occurred.
Okay. And so, how did you? First of all, where was the shooting? And then, because I was reading the newspaper clippings that you sent, where was the shooting? Where did that take place? And then where were you that night?
The initial shooting happened on, the shooting in my case happened on Martin Luther King. And that's where, the newspaper article was written up at. That's the statement that the two girls that were in the car with the victim, that's what they stated, that they wrote that in a statement. That's where it occurred at. That was the location of the shooting.
Yes. And I had seen that on the newspaper clipping that it stated that there was the location of the shooting was on Martin Luther King Boulevard.
900 block, right.
Yes. And that the cops were, yes. And the cops were like around there doing some other work or whatnot. And they actually heard the shots coming from that direction or that area, the 900 block of Martin Luther King.
Right. And so we were on the square earlier that day after Mario, the guy from the bar that got shot. We were on the square earlier that day. So when I went to the police station, me and my dad.
Now, where was the square for people that are listening and don't know? Where was the square located?
The square is located, it's on 2nd Street. The square is kind of hard to describe. It's like,
but not in that vicinity, not in the vicinity of Martin Luther King.
Not in it's I would say it's 3 blocks away from Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, it's 3 blocks away from where he was shot, on Martin Luther King.
Okay.
So yes.
So that's where you were. You were on the square.
Yes.
And then you go home, or how late were you on the square, and what time did you go home? What did you do the rest of the night?
So we left the square about 11:30. And so we left the square, and when we left the square, we see a guy that had a property damage, Mike Weathers, and we were talking to him about his window. Someone had just threw something through his window, and he was explaining to us that it just happened. And so we after that we got into the car with my aunt's boyfriend.
Okay. And then you guys, and how old were you at this time? So the listeners will.
I was 16.
16 at the time. And when you say we got in the car, it was you and who was with you?
It was me, a guy named Sean Moon, and Michael Goings, and Philip Renfro. So he took us home. He dropped everybody off at home, and that was the end of the night for us.
Gotcha. So you're home that night, probably around what, 12, 11:30,
12 o'clock. And so the shooting happened at 1:40 with Michael Rowley. And so we were at home then by the time he had got shot.
And then, so how did you get involved? How did what happened the next day?
So there was a guy that had the gun on the square, Sean Moon. He was the one that told him that I had a gun. And so 12 days later after that is when they came and got, me and my dad actually went to the police station, and my dad came and got me and told me that they were looking for me. So we went to the police station and asked them what they were, why they were looking for me. And he hold on. So yeah, we went to the police station, me and my dad, and they were interrogating me. They told my dad that he had to stay out in the lobby because they didn't know if he was my dad or not. So they took me into the interrogation room and questioned me about the shooting.
And so first of all, your dad not being able to go with you, and you were just 16 years of age, that's a problem in of itself, right? You're back there, they're interrogating you, asking you, what kind of questions were they asking you?
Well, they were asking me, they asked me did I have a gun, and I told them that I had a gun that day, and they asked me where my gun was at, and so they went and got the gun, and the next day they came and told me that was the gun that shot Michael Rowley.
They go and they get the gun from your place, your home, and they say that was the gun that shot him.
Yes.
Wow. And you weren't even there, which is one of the comments I see there. It says, man, you weren't even there. And then for them just to go and get the gun, I mean, did they do any tests?
Yes, they did a ballistics. Less than 24 hours. And I mean, they said that they did the ballistics, and they came back and told me that was the gun that shot Michael Rowley. Yes.
When was the last time that gun had actually been shot?
When Sean Moon shot it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So okay. Sean Moon had the gun on the square that night. And so he was the one that gave him my name.
Why? Have you ever asked him why? Like, why?
Because he was facing assault charges. And so he needed to clear his name. And that was something that he did to kind of clear his name.
Okay. And so you're at the police station, and they are interrogating you and not allowing your dad to go back because they say that they don't even know if that's your real dad, which is insane to me. what an excuse, right? They're back there interrogating you. What kind of, aside from them asking you if you have a gun and, you know, where the gun is, what other questions were they asking you?
Well, they asked me if I was the one that shot the guy. They accused me actually of shooting him.
So one thing really fast, when we were talking about the gun and the ballistics testing that they say that they did, there was a great question. It says, was the ballistic report signed?
No, it wasn't. It was an unsigned ballistic report that was submitted in the courtroom. And so that was one of the major issues with the gun. So the gun, you know, when we were in the interrogation room, I gave them the gun. I told them that I had a gun. And so they went and got the gun. And the next day they came and, you know, they arrested me the first day for when I told them that I fired a gun in the air. And so they charged me with firing a gun in city limits. So they went and got the gun. And the next day they came and got me from the juvenile and told me that that was the gun that shot Michael Rowley. So the gun that I gave them, and they said that I told them I shot at a car with that gun, was the evidence that they used to convict me. That was what they used to convict me. That was their evidence. So, you know, I mean, it only makes sense. Like I said, if I shot someone, why would I turn around and give them the gun? It just doesn't make sense, you know?
Right.
So that was the thing that I think really, you know, it just defies logic of if someone do anything, you know, why would they turn around and give them the gun? So yeah.
Absolutely. And so you and your dad, so you left, so when they were interrogating you, they released you to go home with your dad. Is that correct?
No, they
no.
arrested me. The first day they arrested me for firing a gun in city limits because I told them I shot the gun in the air.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so I was arrested for that. But the next day they said that they tested the gun and that the gun that they tested was the gun that shot and killed the guy. And so I don't believe that that was not the gun. You know, I don't believe in less than 24 hours they did a ballistics testing and found out that that was the gun. They were just saying that was the gun, hoping that I would just go ahead and admit that, you know, I shot the guy.
And so they arrested you, and obviously for something that you didn't do. And then there's the ballistics report that was not signed. But of course, we'll get to that when we chat about you guys going to court. So are you in juvenile hall? Are you in prison as a 16-year-old?
Well, I was in juvenile for 30 days and I was bounded over as an adult. And I went to the county jail. After that, maybe like a little over a month, I was bounded over and went to the county jail.
And do you know, did you get a lawyer? What was your dad? What were your parents thinking?
My family were fighting for me. They fought for me to, because they believed me. You know, they believed that of my innocence. And so they fought for me to get out. You know, I had a lot of family support that were, actually trying to, stand up and fight for my innocence.
And so you guys finally, I guess you went to court, and was it a jury? Was it just the judge, or was it a jury trial?
Yes, it was a jury. Yes, it was a jury, 11 whites and 1 black. You know, I mean, You know, they say you supposed to get a jury of your peers, and that was definitely not the situation. Those detectives, to go back, you know, they
Yes.
were they made it personal, you know, and so they took advantage of me not knowing the law. They said that I made, you know, said some things that I didn't say. Um, and that was the reason for keeping my dad outside the interrogation room, so they could, you know, kind of just take advantage of me and put me in a situation to where they can just pressure me and just do whatever they wanted to do.
So you go to court, and you had shared the testimonies of the two girls that were in the car of the gentleman that you're accused of, or you went to prison for killing when you didn't. But did they? So if I jump ahead, please tell me. Okay. So you go to court, and you are obviously on trial for shooting and killing this gentleman. And there's not any proof, because obviously you were somewhere else. But you had mentioned when you and I chatted in the pre-interview, you had mentioned that when the police found out where you were, then they changed the location. They verbally changed the location
So
of where the individual was shot.
It was 12 days after, from when I was arrested until to when it was 12 days that passed. 12 days that passed from the point that I was on the square to I was arrested.
Okay.
And so, like I say, that's what I knew of. I knew the shooting had happened on Martin Luther King Boulevard. You know, I really wasn't like, when I went to the police station with my dad, I told him that when I was in the interrogation room, that's what I knew. I knew, you know, I didn't know much about the shooting. That's, you know, what was in the media, you know, the news, you know, that's what I knew. But they kind of like was trying to pressure me to, you know, say that I was the one that shot him when we were in the interrogation room. They didn't stop that. I mean, they just kept pressuring me, trying to get me to say that I was the one, you know, and that they had witnesses that see me, which, you know, they were just making up things, you know, just to, because obvious it wasn't any witnesses, you know, and I mean, if you had witnesses, they would have been able to testify to that. So that only makes sense. If someone seen me shoot this guy, then they would be able to get on the stand and testify and say, I seen Jermaine shoot this guy. And, you know, the girls, which were in the car, they said that they, you know, the shots came from two different areas on the square. One testified that the shots came from one area, and then the other one said that they came from a different area. So their statement, their testimony and statement was totally different. And the detective kind of coached them, you know, to say what actually happened. They didn't even really know. They were like confused. You know, they were like, they were just, that night, they didn't know. So the detective seemed to know more than they actually knew.
Yes, I saw that. So Jermaine had shared with me the transcript of these two young ladies who went to, supposedly they were witnesses, but in their transcripts, when I was reading through them, you could tell, yes, they were both different, very different. And one of them even was like, didn't even know, she had only been in the area for like 8 months, I think, and she didn't know what she was. She didn't know. They did seem, when I was reading through them, very confused, and just not even, there was no certainty about
Right.
them knowing who exactly shot who, or
And
if it was you or not, you know.
if you remember the one girl, I think it was Gail. She said that the detectives told her,
Mhm.
um, you know, where the shots came from.
Mhm.
So he practically coached them, to say what actually happened. So yeah, that was one of the things that, kind of stood out about their whole testimony.
Yes. That, the unsigned ballistics report,
Mhm.
the most definitely in their testimonies where they did not know where at all where the shots were coming from. And then the fact that in the newspaper clipping that it said that it was on the 900 block of Martin Luther King Boulevard.
That was their original statement. And
Mhm.
like I say, I mean, you know, that's where they told them that it happened at. And then from the point that from that night until almost 2 weeks later when they arrested me, they switched the location
Mhm.
to where I told them I was at that earlier that day. And so they inserted that where, that actual shooting to kind of like try to fit into where I said I was at that
Mhm.
earlier that day, doing throughout that day. And so if you really like break it down, it doesn't fit. The logic of it, how they say he was shot, it doesn't add up to where I was at or the people that I was with. Um, it doesn't fit, into their storyline.
Mm.
So yeah, it just doesn't fit. It didn't fit.
My gosh. So what are you thinking all this time, Jermaine, if you can remember, as a 16-year-old boy?
I mean, I was in shock. I was in disbelief. Um, and I for years I thought that um one of the guys that had the gun at night maybe had shot the guy and just brought me the gun back and just didn't tell me. And then I was just, I didn't have no alibi. I was just stuck. And
Mm.
so until I actually got home and started researching my case and looking into it, I could see things that like the location, the the news clipping article,
Mhm.
and the looking at the ballistics report, seeing that that there was some things with the ballistic report.
Mhm.
Um, there were just different things that stood out, that actually showed that they kind of did some things that they weren't supposed to do in the case.
Most definitely. So when you went to court, did you know, or when you went to trial and court, and obviously these young ladies were didn't know where they were, didn't know what had happened. Obviously, they were coached. Um, what are you thinking as you're sitting there? And was it just how long was the trial?
The trial was 3 days. And so as a child, I was just so naive. It really didn't process, what was going on. I'm thinking that, I know I didn't do it. So the turnout, even though, what was going on, the turnout, would be in my favor. So I was just so naive to the whole system of what was going on that I just thought, once everything was said and done, I would be cleared. But that wasn't the case, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that you would think, and and I would say yes, naivety. I would also say that it's also because you know what the truth was. You knew what the truth is was
Right.
back then, and you knew or felt like when you went to court everything was laid out, that it would be done. You'd be able to go home. And unfortunately, gosh, the corruption, it's
It was, I mean, it was just so much on that end because, like I say, it was a racially motivated case. And I think for me, those detectives, like I say, they personalized it. And it just, now looking back in retrospect, I could see that that's what it actually was. It wasn't about justice. It was about finding a scapegoat, finding someone that they could just clear the case with. And I was just a young, unknowledgeable of the law, just not knowing anything. I was an easy scapegoat, and they used me, to make their case, and took advantage of me.
absolutely. And what about your lawyer? Well, I mean,
my lawyer was a public defender. I just think that he knew what he was up against, and he just kind of like, he went along with the program. I mean, I look now and read over transcript pages, and I see that, he really didn't put the effort in that, an attorney that's going to fight for someone that's innocent, that should have done, some of the things that he didn't do. It was just like he accepted whatever, that they chose to do. And because he practically knew what was going to be the outcome. So that was kind of like, a no, it wasn't a no-brainer practically. Yeah.
And so you go to court the third day. Okay. You said the trial lasted 3 days, and the jury, how long does the jury stay out? Do you know, to deliberate? Do you know? Or remember?
I think it was maybe like half of a day or so. It wasn't long. It was a quick process. I think they, maybe had their minds already made up. And so, yeah, it wasn't, a long process or anything like that.
I am just, I can't even imagine you, Jermaine. It is shocking. And
it's shocking, but it's real. It's the reality of what's actually going on. I'm just one of the people that actually has experienced something like this. Is other people, and that's my reason for telling my story. It's been 36 years, and it's just something that I want to do to uplift and inspire other people that's actually, that's experienced this same, tragedy.
yes,
so,
yes, it is a tragedy. It's an injustice. It is a tragedy. Did they ever find the bullet? I mean,
they said that they did, and they tested it, and that it's supposed to have been a match. And so, that's what they stated. They stated that, like I say, less than 24 hours. And there was an unsigned document, unsigned ballistics report that stated differently. And I think if someone was, look into it, they would see. Like, I have transcript pages and everything. Anything that I'm speaking about, I have in black and white. So I have transcript pages, I have newspaper articles, and I can, show exactly what I'm talking about.
absolutely.
Not something that I'm just sitting here, just allegedly, speaking about. It's facts.
That's right. And, and I appreciate you so much for sharing the transcripts and the newspaper clipping with me. Because once you hear somebody's story, right, someone tells you, this is my story, and then you go and you read, and you're like, holy smokes, this guy sat in prison for something that he did not do.
A 16-year-old boy, though, like that's the thing. Like, I was just wondering, like, why though? Like, I think about that to this day. Like, I mean, why? What was the reason? What was the motive behind them really pursuing me the way that they did, you know. And like I say, the only thing that I can think of is I was an easy target,
Mhm.
and I played right into their to their tactics. And so
Of
they took
course.
advantage of that. They took advantage of it, and they, like I say, they kept my dad outside the interrogation room so they can do exactly what they needed to do, and that's create a case.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's still happening. That is I really feel like God led me to the Innocence Project, because I we this need someone we all of us need light to be shed on this injustice. This is so wrong, and so many people have emailed me, and I promise you, if you're listening, you're a person that has emailed me. I promise I'm getting to you. It takes a little time to
Mhm.
um, do interviews, pre-interviews, and scrub through transcripts and read. And
Like I say, this is my first time actually publicly speaking and telling my story, and so it's so much courage that is.
absolutely so much courage. I mean,
And
to
people don't really understand, like, it's trauma behind everything, especially as a young boy. You know what I mean? There's
yeah,
things that comes with that. And so to get up here and kind of, talk about it after years of being silent is yeah, that's
that's a
something that.
very courageous thing to do,
Yeah.
Jermaine. And like you said, after years of being silent and never sharing your story, and
Mhm.
to come on a live podcast, even adds to it, right? Tiffany says that she heard that there was a juror that had to be dismissed. Why was that?
One of the jurors, said that she had a family member that was where the police had planted drugs on him, and he had went to prison, and so she felt like she would probably be kind of biased towards that, and they got her off of there quick. Yeah, so she was released as a juror because she told them that you know she had a nephew that where the police planted drugs on him, and so yeah, she was removed.
Wow.
But the jury was, like I say, it wasn't a jury of my peers. So I mean, that was another thing I felt that was against me.
Mhm,
Um, it being like a racially motivated case,
mhm.
that was one of the factors that I feel like was against me as well. And
Absolutely. And if
so,
you're just tuning in, the jury, and we are not racist here at all, we're stating
right.
facts.
Hmm.
But the jury was 11 white people and one African American person. And when you are in that day and time, and it's already conflicts between the Klan and black
Yeah.
people getting shot by the Klan, and white people getting shot by black people, and to have a jury like that, um, that's another thing that's completely wrong. Or saying
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I was the scapegoat. Yeah,
Mhm,
pretty much. I,
mhm,
I was just the scapegoat by giving them a gun and being in that interrogation room to where they could say that I told them I shot the gun at a car or whatever. That was their evidence. That's all the evidence that they had. It's just what I gave them. So it wasn't like they had a solid case. It was just pretty much what I gave them.
mhm.
So that was it. Yeah, well, my family has been with me from the beginning. They were the ones. I mean, and even in the community. I mean, all of the community knew that I didn't do this, and even to this day, they when they see me and they talk about me, talk about it. That's what they say. I know you didn't do it. Like, and that's kind of bad that and unfortunate that it happened like that. But like I say, it made me a stronger person. It made me, I kind of grew up and became someone, you know, um, that evolved from all of it, and so it made me a stronger person.
Well, I was just going to move into that to ask you. You spent the full 18 years incarcerated, correct?
Yes.
And tell us, what was that like for you? What was spending 18 years in prison like for you, Jermaine?
It was difficult. I mean, you know, it was difficult as a kid growing up in prison. Um, you know, I made the best of it. I you know, I took one day at a time, and knowing that I had people outside of you know, my family that were supporting me and trying to get me home, that gave me hope. You know, that encouraged me to keep fighting, to hold my head up, and to just stay strong in all of that adversity. And so that for me, that was enough to keep me, you know, prospering and keep striving along the way.
Thank God, because 18 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, yes, 18 years is a long time. I mean, I got out when I was 34. I went in when I was 16. So yes, it definitely was a long time.
How did it change you? How did it change you, Jermaine, as a person?
It built me. It built character for me. And you know, it, like I said, it was something that made me stronger. Um, for the most part, that's what it was for me. Um, you know, the adversity still is, you know, the barriers that I had to overcome and still overcoming is still there. And I
What are those?
strive,
What are
you know,
those barriers?
the barriers are, you know, just finding a decent job, you know, when you know, there's, you know, if you have a felony, that's something that's, you know, you have to overcome. You have to, you know, keep fighting to try to, you know, find employment. That's an obstacle. That's, you know, something that I'm faced with, you know, to this day. So, you know, but I'm striving though. I'm still striving, and I'm making, you know, things, putting things in place.
How about mentally? What do you ever wonder? And I've always wanted to ask, does any of you ever say, why God? Why me? Why me?
Why not? I mean, you know, we all have our things, our struggles, you know, and this
Mm,
is just life. Life is a struggle. And, you know, we feel, you know, it helps us to discover who we are, you know, through struggle, through adversity. Those are the things that build us up and makes us who we are. And, you know, I feel like God sometimes puts us through things just to so we can figure out what we're actually made of. You know, that's the
gosh.
strength within myself. Just like, you know, striving through everything. And that's just like I say, everyone is going through something. Everybody is going through something, and that's what peels the layers of weakness away from us, and
Mm.
strengthens us and builds us in character and everything.
You are a better man than I am. I think you are, wow, uh, just a prime example of goodness. And by that I mean, you know, God creates all of us equally, and unfortunately, well, fortunately, he gives us free will because he's that kind of a God. Unfortunately,
Absolutely.
the people on this planet, in this world, um, abuse it. They obviously um, misrepresent what we would believe that the justice system is supposed to be and how it is supposed to
Mhm.
serve the innocent, how it's supposed to protect. And I'm not saying all of
Right,
it,
right.
you know, is like that or is corrupt, but in this case, most definitely, I can say that with confidence, that is extremely corrupt. And my hope and my prayer for you, Jermaine, is that somebody somewhere sees this or hears your story for the first time, and someone's like, "We need to get that, get this off of his record because you have the proof. I've read it. I read it."
Well, and that's just a small piece of it. I have I have all my transcript pages. I have things that they actually destroy, evidence that they destroyed, so I have some things that, supports my case, the facts of my innocence to support everything that I'm sitting here telling you guys today. But like I say, when you're forced to fight and keep striving. And that's the only thing that I have on my record. That's the only thing that I have on my record, even since I've been home. That's practically it. That's the tarnish that, I deal with, just that murder. And it sounds bad. That's it's unfortunate that it's like that, but that's what I'm dealing with. And,
this is kind of an off the wall question, but what did you want to be as a kid? What did you want to be, Jermaine? Because I'm thinking about you not having the opportunity to even get just a decent job. And besides trying to get a decent job, which is obviously extremely difficult because of obviously being wrongfully convicted, what did you want to be when you were a kid? When you grew up, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be a football player. That was one of my ambitions, my goals, and my, something that I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the military. I wanted, that was one of the things that I wanted to do once I graduated from high school. I wanted to go to the military. And, all of those things were I was deprived of. And so, just having to go another route, I still feel like that I still accomplish everything. I'm not like struggling, I'm still putting things together. Things are working out for me. It may have took a little longer, but things are still happening for me. And I'm happy, and I'm, glad to be able to say that. I just want to say one other thing.
Please.
I think, I being incarcerated, I didn't seen a lot of people come out, and I think the mental and the psychological part is, they find themselves going back because of situations that, like I said, they come out here and face situations that's, the adversity of coming home and going through some of this, not being able to find a job and just, put things together like they would like it. And so they head back to the streets. And, that's one of the main things I think that people deal with once they come out here. And so that, for me, is why I want to inspire and help people, just to encourage them to keep pushing, not to succumb to the adversity and the streets out here, because when you just have to keep fighting, and get through whatever it is that you're faced with out here.
So beautifully said.
So that's
for
the
sure.
message, yes, that I would send to anyone that actually has experience and is going through whatever it is that, they're going through once they leave prison.
That's beautiful, because saying, please, for people to come out and to fight and not to succumb to what was handed or dealt to them. I think people go back to what they know. And I mean, I don't know if there are groups out here, maybe they are, and I'm just ignorant to it. But if there are groups that help people rebuild themselves after being released from prison, Because I personally do not fault a person to fall back on something that they are comfortable or what they know, but I fault the communities or the systems that don't have places
They're
for them to rehabilitate. Are there places for them
partially
to?
responsible, and
Yes,
they have
yes,
to accept some responsibility. But people
yes,
that's actually in that situation have to be a little more responsible because it's their life. You know,
yes,
you have to be mentally strong. I think that's the thing that you have to push past the struggle of coming out here and being up in opposition to everything that's going to deter you from doing the right thing. So that is something that we're faced with coming back out here. But
yes,
having that mental fortitude to get past everything that you're going to be up against is one of the things that you just have to learn to do. I know
yes.
it's easier said than done, but I'm an example. I'm
You
sitting
are.
here and I'm telling you that you can do it. Like you have to do it. You have to.
Man, Jermaine, I am
Yeah.
so proud of you. I'm
But
so
it's
blessed to know you,
well,
to
I
have had this
appreciate it.
opportunity to
I really
meet
do.
you. My gosh, it brings me to tears as well, to think that this
Yeah,
is happening to people, and it's
it's
still
the
happening.
reality. Yeah,
It
unfortunately, it
is.
is. But if we come together and we build platforms, and like I say, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity
Mm.
to speak and share my story. Um, is really something that I can't even really express the gratitude that I have um, for the for
Back at you,
yes,
Jermaine, because I'm honored to have you trust my platform and to come on and to share and to be so vulnerable and to be so
yeah,
courageous to come on and share because
yeah.
it's very difficult.
It is, and I mean, I still feel the pain within, but talking about it, I think will help me to be
Mhm.
able to express it clearly, more clearly, and just kind of free myself from the bondage. You
Absolutely.
know, free myself from everything that's trying to hold me back, whether it's
Yes.
mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically. That is something that I feel like this is going to propel me to get to that next level that I where I need to be at. It's all of us. It's all of us together that makes that impacts everything. So everybody is really the ones that made this happen. Just us sitting here and you guys listening and me speaking, that is what empowers us.
Yes. Absolutely. I have one final question for you, Jermaine. I ask every single one of my guests that have been on my radio show and my podcast one question.
Mhm.
And I want you to think back from your time in school, in elementary school, and when you were playing football and hanging out with friends, you were at the square. Next thing you know, here you are 16 being drug into an interrogation room without your dad, um, being going to trial and the jury being not fair. And
Mhm.
they deliberate your 3 days in trial. They deliberate for half a day. They come back with the guilty verdict. You spend 18 years of your life in prison, going in at 16 years of age in 1990. And you get out 18 years later and you're 36 years of age, still trying to get this off of your record. Here you are today. You are writing a book. You have shared your story for the first time after everything, all of that, Jermaine, all of that. I want you to tell me, who is Jermaine today? Who are you, Jermaine? Who are you today?
I'm someone that's striving to just enjoy my life and have fun and spend time with my family and just become a better person. There's so many obstacles to overcome in life. I think, each moment, each day that we live, we discover something different about ourselves. So for me, it's just self-discovery and just being able to whatever I have within myself, just being able to share that with my family, the peace and the joy and the love, that's important to me, and just people around me. You know what I mean? We just have to learn to be able to do that. And I think for me, that's the most important thing to be able to do, is just give my family whatever it is that I have built within myself, for my experience, my adversity, everything that I've been through, is just to give them a piece of that.
I love that. You know what, Jermaine, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you what I see. I see one inspiring gentleman, one man who has beaten adversity and, yes, has come out on the other side, a man who is well on his way to changing the lives of others by sharing his story, whether it is on podcast or whether it is through your book. But you are on a journey, my friend, and I feel that God has placed his hands on you and you have a purpose. And while his purpose sometimes for us, for other individuals, for ourselves, comes with great hardships, great lessons, but thank God that we've learned from those lessons so that we can share, so that we can help others and encourage. It takes a warrior, and you are one of those, my friend. You are.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jermaine, for coming on. It's been an honor and a privilege, a pleasure, and I'm glad to call you my friend. I can't wait to have you back on so that you can share your book. Thank you so much for joining me.
You are awesome. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on and joining. What an incredible man. What an amazing, inspiring gentleman that Jermaine is. I appreciate you for tuning in. And I have to tell you, this is just the start of my interviews with human beings who have been wrongfully convicted. I thank God for the Innocence Project, and we will continue to move forward in this series. I can't wait for the next. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Please share, share, share. You never know who needs to hear this. So if you have a platform that you can share this on, whether it's your own YouTube channel or page or your Facebook page or Instagram or whatever it is, share this out, because you never know who needs to hear Jermaine's very courageous story. Thank you again for joining me. Until next time, you guys have a good night. See you next time. Bye.
This is your Prospera.